Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we're going to be doing a classic constructed tier list for the month of November, but first I wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who supported me on my last video. I had a few people reach out and say thank you for the draft guide because they were able to get first place at their skirmish. My skirmish was actually yesterday. It was a pretty small skirmish, we only had 12 people, but I was able to get first place, win the Razor Reflex playmat here. We also got our cold foil hero was Oldham for top 8. Don't really care about the cold foil young heroes too much, but still cool to get. You're also probably going to see a lot of videos in the next week of me wearing the same clothes in the same picture. I'm planning to record a bunch of videos today to put out over Thanksgiving break because I will not be at my recording setup. So you'll probably see a bunch of it. It's not because I haven't changed for a week. It's because I'm just recording a bunch right now. But with that out of the way, we're going to hop into this Classic Constructed tier list for the month of November. The Classic Constructed meta is very up in the air right now. We just came out of this calling season, and now we have just this massive lull. There's like basically no events announced for next year in 2022. Excuse me. We don't know what formats are going to be popular. We can assume Classic Constructed, but there's not really any big events for us to tell us what's going on outside of some like nationals here and there in Europe. But I think almost everything, all the nationals are done now. We also have Everfest coming up, probably before any events. So the meta right now is mostly just for like armories and stuff. Like my local armory on Monday is a Classic Constructed, so it's still good for me to keep up with it. But there's not really any like major events coming up, and Everfest is probably going to mix everything up anyways. But the good thing is, I think the meta is actually pretty healthy right now. I actually don't think there is any S tier decks, so I'm not going to touch this S tier. I don't think there is an S tier deck. Mostly, we'll get to that. But the A tier is going to be what we all kind of already know and love. So we've got Briar here. Briar's just very strong and consistent, probably the best aggro deck in the format, but it does have very obvious weaknesses to like any kind of ice deck. It's pretty weak to any kind of fatigue strategy. Obviously, there's ways for Briar to play around that. A lot of Briar decks have found like Sting, Ball, and some of the new ones are doing this hybrid Briar using Channel Mount Heroic, but really the deck's always going to have problems with consistency, drawing like 4 non-attack actions or just not drawing the attacks in the right order. So it's a bit of a fragile aggro deck, but obviously still very powerful, still pumps out a ton of damage, and if it runs well, it runs really well, right? So I think it's probably going to be an A tier for a long time until they either make changes via bans or in case I assume Everfest will, mix up the meta, right? So, but for now, we've got Briar in A tier along with Bravo, who is my favorite hero. He's just able to he's in a good spot, right? Because he's kind of a mid-range deck, and a lot of the decks right now are either full aggro or full control to try to beat those aggro decks, right? And Bravo can kind of play the game of beating both. He can have a good game plan of going aggressive versus these control decks, and going more fatigue versus these aggro decks like Briar using the shield that we just got. So he also got some good tools like Terra Sunder. So Bravo's just in a really good place right now. He's always been an A tier hero, and I think he's here to stay for a long time. Guardian's just quite strong. Next up in A tier, we have Viserai here. The Runeblades are all really good right now. I'll put Chain up here too. All of the Runeblades are A tier. Mostly the printing of Rosetta Thorn and Spellbound Creepers were both very good for Runeblades. In Tales of Aria. And they're just all quite powerful because of that. Even if all of them don't use Spellbound Creepers, like most decks that are Briar don't, they all use Rosetta, and a lot of them do try to abuse Spellbound Creepers when they can. So all the Runeblades are pretty powerful. Viserai has good game against these control decks as well by setting up like Runechain OTKs, and against Briar he has a lot of good D-Reacts now that he can play this D-React game into like a semi-OTK. And then Chain also was able to get Rosetta Thorn. He's not as good as his dominant S tier he was when Seeds was legal, but he's still powerful. He's still an A tier deck, and he's one of the most challenging decks to pilot, which is why we don't see as many. but really good chain players are still going to put up really good results. Next, we have Lexi here. Ice Lexi primarily seems to be what's popular, but the Ice Lexi does prey on a lot of the aggro decks very efficiently. And I just think she's in a good spot. I think all the ice decks are pretty powerful. And to round out the A tier, we're going to have the other ice deck. So you can see the A tier right now, at least in my opinion, is all 3 Tales of Aria heroes, all 3 Runeblades, and then Bravo. So both Guardians, right? So it's basically like the A tier is like Guardian, Runeblade, Tales of Aria heroes. But yeah, the ice decks are very powerful. Channel Lake Frigid's a good card. Frostbites are good. It's what we thought, right? I remember saying I thought all the ice decks were going to be kind of too dominant when they were spoiling Tales of Aria. And then my tier list after that was backtracked a bunch, and I put them in like B and C tier because I thought they were really bad. But really just the decks had not been solved yet. I think we're getting closer. I don't think they're fully solved, but they're obviously much better than when I put, like Lexi in B and Oldham in C. They've improved a lot. People have figured them out. And the meta has also gotten more aggressive since then, with Briar being more powerful to make these ice decks kind of good counters, right? So this is what I would put as A tier right now. Basically, you can pick yourself a Guardian, you can pick yourself a Runeblade, or you can get spicy with the other ice deck on Ranger. It's all pretty good, but like I said, I don't think there's an S tier, but I think these are the 6 strongest heroes. But following pretty closely behind, we have the B tier. We have the 2 light heroes here. Prism's still pretty powerful. Her mechanics and her cards are just always going to be quite strong. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. She's just very, she has great library. She has good auras like Genesis. She has powerful heralds. She has game against these aggro decks. I do think she struggles against some of the go wide Runeblades like Briar, which is why she's down in B tier from being in A tier for like months. So that's why she's down here. But she has great game into these fatigue decks like Oldham. She might be like Oldham's worst matchup, so still pretty good. Still beats up on control decks. Still here to stay. And then we have Bolton. His Saber build is, still powerful. He can still do these like semi-OTKs or full OTKs on his Saber build. It seems like the Raiden build has mostly fallen out of favor, but Sabers is still doing pretty good. It honestly struggles against the aggro decks, and I also don't think it can fully OTK these fatigue decks, so I'm not sure why it's putting up such great results. And I'd like to think he's actually more of like, a C tier hero, but I'm not really going to argue with the results too much. And he is putting up consistent top 8 still, so there's obviously something I'm just missing. So I'm going to keep him in B tier for now. And, Saber's OTK is always going to be a good OTK. Then we have my other favorite hero, Katsu, here. I think aggro Katsu is still fine. I don't think it's as good as these other aggro decks on Runeblade here. He's just like basically a worse Runeblade in terms of aggro. But I don't think he's bad. I think you can still take down events. I believe one of the nationals was won by an aggro Katsu last weekend, or the weekend before that, I mean. And so yeah, he's still doing fine. If you want to pick up Katsu and play him, you'll still do well. He's just not as aggressive and powerful as like this Briar and other Runeblades here. And then to round out B tier, we have Dash. A lot of people think Dash is dead because of her matchup into Briar. I know Dash players personally that think Dash actually has a good Briar matchup. So, and they have results to prove it too. So, they have tech that I'm not going to talk about that is really good there. So I don't think Dash is completely dead. She also still beats up on control decks pretty well. So I think she's in a good place. I don't think the average Dash is going to beat Briar, which is the problem. And I think, she's still one of the harder heroes to play perfectly. So I think Dash is always going to be a top tier hero just because of how powerful her card pool is. But I think for now she's gone down from A tier to B tier. That's what we've got for B tier. For C tier, we have Dorinthia and the Brutes. So we've got Dorinthia here, who is just a little low on card quality right now. I think Dorinthia is always going to be a solid hero. I mean, she has the fridge. She has great equipment. She just struggles right now with the fact that she just doesn't, I don't know, her cards just seem weaker on average than most decks, right? Like, she just hasn't gotten a ton of support. There was a warrior reprint basically in Monarch, but didn't really give her much, right? So she needs some new cards, and I think the same is with brutes here. Both these brutes are also putting up decent results, and like I said, the meta's pretty close. We've seen all three of these decks here in top 8s at nationals, and I'm not saying they're bad decks. I'm just saying, they are less powerful, but you can still win like with any of these decks here, right? You can still top 8 an event. You can still get first at any of these decks from A to Z. And I think any deck can really, if you just pilot it well and you're in a good meta for it. But yeah, these decks have just lower power and card quality right now, and I'm hoping Everfest gives some more support to Warrior, specifically like Weapon Warrior, because this is not really like a Weapon Warrior deck on Bolton, and some more support to these brutes here who are just powerful but not quite consistent and powerful enough to keep up with some of the other meta. And then I believe we're just missing 2 heroes here because a lot of these down here are blitz. So we've got D tier, we've got Kano and Azalea. Kind of the same problem they've always had. Kano is just, I was talking to one of my friends, Chris Ray, and he was saying Kano is like 1 card shy of being broken. He just is so close to being a really powerful hero, but he just barely can't get enough damage in, right? Like I was playing Oldham into his Kano, and he was able to do like a 34 damage turn against me, or 32 damage turn, but he just couldn't quite get there with the full 40 and kill me all the way before I was able to kill him, right? So it was just, Kano was like so close to having good enough card quality, and they might give him some more support in Everfest that'll bump him up, but he's just barely not able to do enough damage right now. So D tier, he just needs a little more support and he'll be great, right? And Azalea has a bit of the same issue. Like she's just not as powerful as Lexi. She doesn't have all that support, and her card quality isn't good enough to compete with a lot of the other decks. And I think these decks down here at the bottom for me are mostly just heroes that don't have enough support right now and just need some more power injected into them in Everfest, which I think we likely will. I think we'll see some Ranger, some Wizard, some Warrior, and some Brute. I know we're going to see every class. They announced that every hero is going to have cards to support them, but I think they're going to have more powerful cards, for these heroes down here. But yeah, that is our November Classic Constructed tier list. Let me know what you're playing. I don't know what I'm playing. I really enjoy Bravo, and I'm keeping my Bravo deck, but I want to learn new heroes during this offseason and make myself a more well-rounded player. And I already know Katsu and Bravo, so I want to play Briar a little, but I also am thinking about playing just all the Tales of Aria heroes, like playing Briar, Lexi, and Oldham, and trying to learn all of those. I'm just going to mess around. Like I said, it is off-season. There's no big events we're practicing for right now, so it's really just I'm trying to learn as much of the different classes as I can that aren't just Ninja and Guardian that I know. So yeah, let me know what you're playing. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.